Hello and welcome to the Nutrition by Carmen podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today, whatever day it is that you're listening. I hope you're just having a wonderful day in general. And as always, I would love if you could give me a 5-star rating and a written review, because that just really helps this podcast grow. The feedback has been so incredible, so I'm so grateful for all of that. But if you could just take less than 30 seconds out of your day to leave me a positive review, I would be just so very grateful. So today's episode I'm really excited about because I talk about how to stay full when you're in a calorie deficit or on a fat loss journey. And I say calorie deficit and fat loss sort of interchangeably here because you need to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose body fat. And so that is first and foremost. And so I just want to answer the question, like, what is a calorie deficit? So what does that mean exactly? So basically, in the most simple terms, a calorie deficit means that you are consuming calories, obviously, but you're consuming less calories than your body actually needs. So you are really eating less than what your body requires to operate, if that makes sense, right? So in order to lose body fat, you have to be eating less than what your body requires. And so I know if you Google calorie deficit or fat loss calculator, there is just so much out there that can just be super confusing. And just saying that no calorie calculator for calculating your calorie deficit is perfect. And that's just the way it is. But there are formulas that can get you very, very close to figuring out what your caloric range is to put you in a calorie deficit. And I'm gonna just tell you what it is right here in this episode. So if your goal body weight is 150 pounds, you want to multiply your goal body weight, so in this case 150, by 12. And so as I get my calculator out here, that is sort of your quote unquote formula. If you're ever wondering, well, how many calories do I actually need to have in order to lose fat? And that is sort of my go-to formula. So when you multiply, say my goal, I want to get to 150 pounds. I multiply that by 12 and I get 1800. 1800 is my target calorie range. And so what I also like to say as well for people listening is that, I like to have a range, because if I say, okay, you need to eat 1800 calories, someone could get very, very nitpicky with this. And if they have 1801 calories, they might think that they've ruined all their progress and they are not going to lose any fat. And that is just absolutely not the case. So in this situation, I really like to have a range of a calorie range specifically, so that you aren't so fixated on that just hard 1800 number, and it'll just make your life so much easier as well. And so what I tend to do, or if somebody is asking me, Carmen, can you just calculate how many calories I need to eat to lose fat? I will start with, okay, what is your goal body weight? So I do, 150 times 12, 1800. And then I will also go 150 times 11. And that will give me a lesser number, obviously. So in this case, when I do 150 times 11, I get 1650. And so I would say, so-and-so, your ideal range for fat loss, putting you in a sustainable calorie deficit, would be eating anywhere from 1650 calories to 1800 calories in a day. And then you've got sort of that wiggle room of, okay, maybe one day I'm eating a bit less, one day I'm eating a little bit more, but you've got that range to kind of play around with, so it's not so rigid. And so that is like my tip of the tips of the tips of the tips. And it is so simple. And I can tell you that it works because I've done it on myself. I use it for my nutrition clients. And sometimes there's other factors, if somebody is 7 feet tall and somebody is 5 feet tall, you're going to have to look at other things. So that's where, my background as a nutrition coach really comes in handy, because I can tell that, somebody's calorie deficit, if they've got the same goal body weight and they are 2 feet in height difference, we got to change a few things. But for most of us, that is a really great starting point. And so that is just the first thing I'm going to say. So calorie deficit is eating less food than your body actually requires. And to get that number is to multiply your goal body weight by 11 and 12. You got the range. So there you have it. But what I also want to speak about is how to actually stay full while you are in a calorie deficit. Because a lot of what I see and a lot of what's out there right now, as I've mentioned time and time again, are all of these insanely ridiculous fad diets, detoxes, cleanses, where you're eating 800 calories in a day, or you're eating 1,000 calories in a day, and they are promoting rapid weight loss, quick fat loss. And yeah, that makes sense, because if you're eating 800 calories, you're actually not going to lose fat, you're going to lose weight. And when you're losing weight, you're losing your lean muscle mass, you are losing water, you are depleting your bone density. You lose the things you want to hold on to. And so this just goes to show that one of the first things I would recommend if you are doing this fat loss journey on your own is to not put yourself in such an extreme deficit. And the reason I say that is because most things that are extreme are unsustainable, meaning you can maybe do it for a short period of time, see temporary results, and then realize, oh my gosh, I am starving, I am lightheaded, I am not sleeping well, I am stressed, all of this stuff. And then you go and raid your cupboard because you just want that food. And so when I'm setting my client calories, I typically don't tell them what the calories are, though if they ask me, I always tell them. There's no hidden secrets here. It's just sort of I figure it all out. I put their program together. And the goal of a calorie deficit, like I said, to stay as full as possible and satisfied as possible while you're trying to lose fat, is to eat as much food as you can while in your calorie deficit. And so that is my strategy with my nutrition clients, because I want them to be able to eat as much food as possible while they still lose body fat, because who would not want to eat so much food and still see results? And so yes, my clients get results and the fat loss happens slower, But that is for good reason, because they are nutritionally satisfied, they are full after all their meals, they cannot believe how much food they actually are able to eat while losing fat. And the slower you lose body fat, the easier it is to maintain. So that is sort of tip number one on, keeping full in a calorie deficit. Do not set your deficit to an extremely low number, because I'm telling you right now, it will not be sustainable. Okay, second, prioritizing your protein. Again, this is probably, if you've listened or followed me for a while, you're probably like, oh my gosh, Carmen just, she talks about the same things, but there is a reason for it. And that is because these are the things that work time and time again. There is evidence to back it all. It is proven in my fat loss clients that have sustained their fat loss, myself included. And so prioritizing protein. Now, if you are trying to figure out how much protein should you actually be eating in a day, a simple formula, again, is taking that goal body weight. So again, if you are wanting to get to 150 pounds, that's your goal body weight, you multiply that by 1. So 150 times 1, that is 150 grams of protein. Now, again, if you are somebody that is new to eating maybe a little bit more protein, this might seem like an insanely high number. Totally get that. But you can also sort of minus 10 to 15 grams from that on either side as you incorporate more protein. So 150 grams of protein per day. If you get like from 135 to 150, that might be a really great starting point. Assuming you're not a bodybuilder or a physique competitor, all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about sort of our everyday people that want to be healthy, go to the gym, work out, all that kind of stuff. So protein. And that is because protein is the most satisfying macronutrient, meaning it keeps us feeling full for the longest period of time. It takes the longest to digest from consumption to down into our GI tract. And also, it's amazing because our body actually burns the most calories just digesting protein on its own. So while you're getting the benefit of feeling full with protein, you're also burning some more calories just by sitting and eating chicken or whatever it is. And so I always say, get that protein on the plate. And the first thing you should look at when you're putting a meal together is just to ask yourself, okay, what is my protein source in this meal? And then build it from there. So number 2, staying full in a calorie deficit, protein. Next one is prioritizing fruits and vegetables. I know, surprise, surprise, it is shocking news to me too. No, I'm just kidding. Because this, again, is something I talk about all the time. And I've got some clients that do not add enough vegetables to their meals. We work on this and incorporate more. And as soon as they add even just one vegetable to their meal, they cannot believe the difference. And our veggies and fruits, they're so nutrient dense, so they're packed with tons of micronutrients that are just so good for us. They're also full of fiber, which helps keep you feeling full as well. It's also great for your digestive system, but also there is such a large component of water in your veggies and your fruits. And so when you're eating your veggies and your fruits, you are filling up more because it's literally taking up more space in your body. And so what I often like to suggest is, or recommend to people who are getting bored with having the same veggies, I do this myself. So if I'm going grocery shopping, I will always try to buy a different vegetable every single week. So I always buy, like without fail, I love spinach, I love tomatoes, I love cucumbers, I love bell peppers, I love like salad. But I'll look around, I'll see what's in season, and maybe one week, okay, I'm gonna try eggplant this week. And then when I go the next week, I'll get all my regular veggies. And then, okay, instead of eggplant, now what am I gonna get? Let's get some parsnips. Or the next week, let's get some zucchini. So you're always just experimenting, because I get it. I eat a lot of the same foods, but also that can become quite boring, and I totally understand. So every week you go to the grocery store, just make it a point to maybe see if there's a new vegetable you could try and experiment with. And you can do the same with fruit as well. Watermelon, berries, all of that good stuff. Like, it is just so filling, so delicious. And if you are wondering why you're not feeling full, look at your plate. Number one, what's my protein source? Number two, where are my veggies, and what fruit am I gonna have with it? So that is huge, huge, huge. The other thing I wanna mention that is something that is often overlooked is what you eat first from your plate. And it's so interesting, and I've spoken about this before. Whatever you eat first is often what you'll crave later. So for example, if you go to a restaurant, I've talked about this before on Instagram, I'm sure another podcast, they give you a bread basket with butter. That is carbs, that is fat, that is salt. How delicious. So you start your meal with that, you are going to crave foods that are high in carbs, high in fat, high in salt, because you've started your meal with that. And, nothing wrong with that. But if you start your meal with either eating your veggies first or your protein first, you will then crave those things later on. And those are typically the things I recommend people eating with every single meal, especially during a day when you might have a dinner planned that might be more indulgent with drinks and dessert and whatnot. Protein and veggies, because protein is super filling, low calorie, delicious. Veggies, the exact same thing. So if you're sitting down to dinner and you've got, chicken breast on your plate with a salad, and you've got some avocado on the side, and maybe some potatoes. Trust me, I usually go for the potatoes, but sometimes I'm like, okay, one moment I will have a bite of the salad, and then I'll kind of alternate between the veggies on the plate and the protein for a few bites. Then I'll work my way towards the carbs and the fats. And it's something, as I mentioned, that's overlooked, because I just don't think enough people talk about how to actually look at your meals and should I be eating something first. Obviously, everything that you eat is going to the same place, but what it's doing for your hunger hormones and your cravings down the line can actually make a huge difference. So that is something to take a look at if you are on a fat loss journey in a sustainable calorie deficit, but are still feeling like you're craving sweets and treats and carbs. Maybe you're eating, the carbs first, and then you could look at your plate and say, I'm going to try and eat that protein first, like Carmen suggested, and just see if that does anything. So definitely let me know if you try it and it works, because it does work. That's why I'm telling you about it. The last two things are super obvious. Well, again, I say obvious because I talk about these things all the time. It's making sure you're hydrated, water all the time, because that will help keep you feeling full. You'll feel energized. It will also help with digestion, flushing everything down your system, and just making sure you're having enough water in the day. My rule of thumb for water, if you want to know the minimum amount of water you should be having each day, you take your body weight and you divide it by 2, and the answer you get is the amount of water you should be drinking in ounces. So for example, if I weigh 100 pounds, I would go 100 divided by 2, that's 50. 50 ounces of water is my minimum target per day. Super simple. And last but not least, and probably, I mean, these are all important tips, but this one is so underrated. And it's, again, something I've talked about time and time again, is sleep. Sleep is something that will make huge benefits in your fat loss journey, because when we're sleeping and we're in such a great deep sleep, that is quite literally when our body, I like to say, goes to work. Even though you're so relaxed, you're sleeping, you don't even know what's going on, your body is repairing, restoring. If you've done a workout, that's when your muscles are growing and getting stronger. Your cells are repairing, renewing. All of the hunger hormones in your body are, gearing up for replacing and renewing again. And what that basically means is that they kind of reset. And that's just putting it in really simple terms. When we have a really good quality sleep, everything rejuvenates and cells repair and renew, because time and time again, that is what's happening in our body. But our body actually needs to be in a really comfortable sleep in order for all of that to happen. And it just goes to show that if you have a really bad night of sleep, or you've had a night where you're tossing and turning, you're waking up, you're going to the bathroom, whatever it is, you might wake up and feel kind of groggy. And typically when that is the case, it's difficult to make really great nutrition choices the following day. Think about when you've had a night out and you've been drinking or whatever. Sometimes your sleep can be disrupted then, and the last thing you want to eat, typically when you're feeling a little hungover, is a really great veggie omelet. You might want to hit the A&W drive-thru, which I have certainly done before. And that is because with a disrupted sleep rather, your body just did not get the chance to repair, restore all the things that it needed to in order for you to wake up and feel refreshed. And so prioritizing sleep, I would say, these are all number ones. I'm not ranking these in any particular order, but that is such a game changer when it comes to fat loss, sustaining fat loss. And I really suggest, if possible, getting anywhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night, if possible, will help with your mood. It will help with your energy. Your workout, you'll probably feel so good in the gym if you've had a really great sleep. Hunger, all that kind of stuff. So those are just some of my top tips, as well as some formulas in there for calculating your calories for fat loss. So remember, it is your goal body weight times 12. And then I would do your goal body weight as well times 11 to give you that range. Your protein target, how much should you be eating in a day? Take your goal body weight times 1. And that answer is how much protein in grams you should be having per day. And water, take your current weight, divide it by 2. And the number you get there is the amount of water you should be drinking in ounces at a minimum every single day. And obviously on the water front, if you are someone that is working out all the time, sweating, if you are, peeing a lot, just keep drinking water. You don't have to calculate meticulously. You'll kind of know when you're thirsty and when you're wanting water. Oftentimes we really like to overcomplicate the most simple things. And so these are simple tips and tactics that you can implement into your day. But they are just some really helpful, hopefully, strategies that if you are in a fat loss journey and you're wondering, why am I hungry all the time? I would first look to see what your calorie deficit is at, because you might be setting your calories way too low, and start from there. And that is just something I wanted to talk about, because some people that are, on their own wellness journey that aren't nutrition clients of mine have been asking me that. And I thought, these are actually really good questions, because the great thing is the answers are very simple and the solutions are also simple, because you can, look at one meal, where's your protein, what's the fruit and veg, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you've found that helpful. Also, those are just some of the main factors of just a really, really great diet, lifestyle, nutrition, all of that kind of stuff. Sleep, colorful fruits and veg, protein, water, and the order of what you eat on your plate can actually make a huge difference. So that is it for this episode today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. I'm always also looking for feedback. So if you listen to an episode and you want to know more on what I've spoken about, or if you need a refresher on something, always feel free to reach out. I'm always open to answering questions, and I actually love getting questions, because it just makes me feel good knowing people are listening and learning, and that is just the most rewarding thing. So on that note, thank you again for listening. I hope you have an amazing day, whatever time of day it is you're listening, and I will certainly catch you on the next episode. And just remember that all new episodes come out every single Monday. So if you do not subscribe, I would highly recommend that you do, so that you don't miss a single episode. So have a fabulous day, and thank you so much for listening.